You remember when I said I had a concern about John Ramsey's business dealing that could tell me a little something about how he handles business at home? And I talked about this and I talked about that and how at sometimes it may have seemed like I was rambling, but I was trying to get somewhere. And this is where I was trying to get to. And I'm not even finished. I can't find the financial statements. I really want them so bad, but it's a private company, so it's hard to find financial statements. I don't know if I'll ever find them, but I'm gonna scour the internet till I just absolutely cannot find them. I'd be willing to break down or deconstruct what Lockheed Martin has in order to see, or even go look at Sun Microsystems and see if they can show us their sort of output to Access Graphics. But what are we talking about today? CalComp buys biggest of its distributors. Acquisition. This is written by LA Times. LA, what up? The move is part of an effort to help finance the rapid growth of Access Graphics technology of Boulder. Yep. Access is trying to expand, we read. They're trying to expand. They're trying to move to other things. As we said here, and this was in 96 though, so it's a little bit early. We're still early in the process, but we see 5 years later, it took 5 years for John to move beyond traditional into the internet and to try to sort of, we talked about the fact that there was concern that John was relying too heavily on Sun Microsystems. Maybe he's not doing enough business with Silicon Graphics and he's too reliant. He has all of his eggs in one basket in Sun Microsystems. So if Sun decides to go another direction, Access Graphics would be screwed big time. That 500 in sales or whatever, or the numbers, the way it looks, is gone. Poof, it's gone. 500 million. I want you to stop for a second and walk with me here. In 95, the company recorded $500 million in business with Sun. In 96, they reported $1 billion in sales. You did 500 million in that is half the money right there in one distributor. That's scary because if Sun, we talked about this before, I'm not going to belabor the point, but Sun is half your revenue. If they drop off, that company is no longer attractive. And I'm telling you right now, if I saw that, if I see that, this is what we were talking about when we talked about in earlier videos, things in the EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation on the net income statement. So here is, let me see, just pulled up a random income statement for Google. And so just so you can understand what I'm talking about, we have the income statement, which your, statement has position in terms of, okay, where are we at? And so this is for, say, let's this one. Total revenue is here. So we bought in. So this is all numbers in thousands. So essentially you would take this number and multiply it by 1,000, and that will give you the real honest number. So our total revenue was 339.8, or if you want to round up, 339.8 million. If you want to just round up and keep it simple, 339.8 million, probably closer to billion. Our cost of revenue is going to give us maybe sales and things that we had to pay for to get that revenue that's associated with that revenue. Like if we are to acquire customers, we made, $50 off customer, but we had to pay $5 to get that customer. So that's a cost of revenue. And so when I take 339.8 minus the 143.3, essentially get the 196. I get what's right here. Operating expenses. These are things that, and if you break it down, you have your selling and general and administrative and all such as that. Things that I have to pay, what it's going to be, again, what it's going to cost me to sell and advertise and do all of these things, but also the administrative part, what it's going to cost me to pay people and all such as that. I got to pay for these people. So after I get my gross profit, net of the revenue, I get my, I think it's the good sold is really what that is. And then I got my operating expenses. You pull that and then I get 105, right? So we move all here. I got my pre-tax income. I got my net non-operating expenses, other income expenses, things that I watch out for, things I got to add back in. So I got my pre-tax income. So this must be some sort of interest that I made off something. I add, because I'm adding in interest. I made interest from somebody loaning out some sort of money, or I made money off of, like, companies invest in companies and stuff like that. And so, you know, that's to make money as well. So I put that, I'm adding in, this might not even be a real expense, but pre-tax income, don't quote me, pre-tax income that I'm putting on here. And I say not even be a real expense, just to say that gain on sale of security, earnings from equity interest, I lost money there. Other operating, non-operating income, things that don't have anything to do with my day-to-day operatings. It's like, it's not, you know, things that have to do with me paying people to run the business or something like that. I might have servers or something that I gotta worry about, or what have you. So anyways, gain sale of security, I might have some cybersecurity that I have to sell or something like that, whatever. Anyways, the point is, tax revision, what I want to get down to, you got earnings per share. This is what John Ramsey is trying to drive up. If John can get to this place to where I got 761 earnings per share, why is this good? Because the higher this number is, look at this. If I go from 2020 to 2021, 22, 23, if I have basic earnings per share, when I'm an investor, I'm going to come in and I'm going to look at this stuff, and I'm going to look very basic. I still got to do my due diligence to understand what all of this stuff means, and understand exactly how your business works, to understand if these numbers are true, right? That's why we have financial statement analysis. I've increased from 296 per share to 569 to 459 to 584 to 761. What does this mean? This means that the company is, on paper, from what I can see, doing well. This is where I want to get to. EBITDA, EBIT, and the EBIT before interest, taxes. Right up here, they have the tax provision, meaning this is what we think we're going to have to pay in taxes. About $17 billion in taxes is what we think we're going to have to pay. So this is my earnings. When I add everything back in, get everything taken care of, my expenses come in and out, blah, 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 blah. EBIT and then EBITDA. So okay, so my taxes, depreciation, amortization. So depreciation and amortization are not real. When we talk about depreciation, and I'm explaining this, I'm going to tell you what it might look like if you manipulate things or hide things, or the way sometimes it depends on the way that you classify things in a financial statement. You have a little bit of leeway, because I'm telling you what John might be doing. If they're telling him that he's falsifying sales data, it might be in certain ways. So say, for example, I might classify, I might say that part of my expenses were company plane. Oh, it's John's plane, but the company for it. That might be put on the income statement to show of some sort, so that I don't get penalized in taxes. But, the company is paying for it. And so basically what I might do with my plane, let's just say for the sake numbers, I buy the plane at $1 million, and I amortize, depreciate it over 5 years, right? And so that means however I want to depreciate it, saying I'm losing this value over this number over this many years. It's like buying a car. You know what I'm saying? You buy a car, you drive it off the lot, it immediately loses value. And so basically what John is saying is, we're going to amortize that over a lifetime of like 5 years. You keep your for like 5 years or something like that. And so basically I bought my car for $100,000, or I bought my car for $50,000, and I suspect that I will lose $5,000 of value on that car per year. So by the time I get ready to sell that car is going to be worth such and such and so forth, right? But you're not really losing real value. You're losing intangible value, right? But I can put that on the income statement to show people that, hey, I'm losing money, but everybody who knows does, if you're in this room, that's not real. So you got to add it back in, right? Before all this, I'm listing all of these income expenses. I'm being really vague about what these income expenses are, but this is my problem. Kind of see what I'm talking. I don't want to confuse you by continuing to talk about EBITDA and all that stuff. Acquisition, the move is part of an effort to help finance the rapid growth of Boulder. Bought them in 91. They're trying to grow, and so they need a cash infusion to grow. CalComp is a computer graphics equipment manufacturer. They said Wednesday it acquired its biggest domestic distributor for an undisclosed sum. They don't know. They're not going to tell us what they bought Access Graphics for. The acquisition of Access Graphics Technology in Boulder is part of an effort to help finance the distributor's fast growth. It is also expected to boost CalComp's revenue 20% this year. So essentially, they're saying it's twofold in how this acquisition works. It helps us because it's going to boost our revenue because they're making money. The company has shown, Access Graphics and John Ramsey have shown proof of concept make money, and they are showing revenue. So their revenue is so going to boost us. However, we're going to have to expend out some money too in order to get them or boost them in terms of helping them grow, because they have 120 people now. I think they had. We're going to have to boost them to 500, I think, or three to 500 when it's all said and done over the course of those 4 years. Access Graphics, formed in '88 by the merger of 3 CalComp distributors, will be operated as a wholly owned subsidiary with its same management and about 120 employees. Access, which accounted for nearly 4% of CalComp's $400 million in revenue last year. So in 91, CalComp made $400 million in revenue. And so Access Graphics accounted for $16 million in revenue. That's in 1991. That's in 91. That sound like 1 billion to you? That sound like God. I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm trying to figure out, where do you get to $1 billion over the next 5 years? How do you grow so fast? That means your come up is going to have to be crazy. If in 5 years you get to $1 billion, you're reporting $1 billion in 96. How'd you get there? Because you're at 16 million right now. 16 million in revenue. Last year, distributes Access, which accounted for 16 million basically in revenue last year, distributes primarily to engineers who use computers to help design their projects. That's what the CAD is for. Because Access Graphics or group merged with 2 CAD companies. So basically John had the distribution, but they merged with CAD. So they probably took the computers because John was an engineer. That's where it comes from. He's an engineer. And so he would possibly be familiar with CAD, because you got to use CAD to draw, different things, right? It's like a way to draw different products. The advanced. So John might have been in CAD. What advanced products group would be CAD stuff, right? And so essentially you're an individual to where you say, I wonder if it's possible then, Sun has the Java and stuff like that, but it's possible then to have these 3 CAD companies coming together to basically take Sun's computers, Unix-based systems, to take the computers in and maybe implement some sort of CAD software on them, or install some CAD software on there, and then turn around and resell. More you got to pull in. And so you're selling to engineers who architects and all such as that, and home design, all that, designers, city planners, and all such as that. That might be where you are. And then you go into the government defense contracts area. And so that might be where you are. And so you get the computers, essentially, you get the computers free of anything, but then you load the computers with certain stuff and then you sell it out. But your reason for needing to expand with Netscape is, okay, now these computers don't just come with CAD, they come with the internet capabilities. It's like, it's like saying, okay, you have an HP computer that come with Snake, all of those games and whatnot, but now it comes with, we automatically Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or something like there, because now that computer is significantly better than you just giving me Solitaire and Snake. Now you give me the internet with Solitaire and Snake. That could be what they're doing. And they were selling primarily to engineers. Now, that's a very specific group. So John is going and selling to engineers. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because you're identifying a specific group, but how many engineers are there? And so the concept, or what I'm saying is, the idea makes sense. Hey, we're going to market to engineers. Well, how many engineers are there? And how much can you keep this up? How many computers can you sell to engineers? You're going to have to expand your market at some point in time. You're going to have to put more on these computers than just CAD software. You're going to have to appeal more to the masses. You might have to appeal to somebody who's not an engineer at some point, John, basically, which is why you would add the internet. So now that you can now go and say, hey, we got computers, Linux-based, Unix-based computers that house the internet. And your computers get off as somebody who's really good at selling to engineers for architecture or something like that. I'm just making an example. Now I have to expand and say, well, not only we're not just an engineer, we don't just sell to engineers, also sell to the consumer. That would be what you have to do. This is an attractive financial investment for us, said William P. Conlin, of the CalComp president. Access will post revenues of about 120 million for this year if sales continue at the current pace. So let me see. Okay, so they were 16 million. Look at that jump, 16 million. This is a 90. That's interesting. That may have been the reason. I was doing some research on Hudson because you know that in 1991, so the company came together 88, 89. I was reading the company came together in 88, 89. The three merged and then they became Access Group. They were acquired in 91 and John became the president and CEO. But in 1990, Jim Hudson was the president. I think they mentioned Jim Hudson in the Death of Innocence book by John and Patsy. I haven't read it. I was trying to get my hands on a copy to see exactly what they may have said about Jim Hudson. Maybe John is explaining in there the transition from 1990 to 91, because I was like, if John put together the group, was it John that put together the three companies or engineered the collection of companies coming together? What happened? Was he the CEO? And what ushered his rise to power among those three companies? And if he was the CEO, if he wasn't, maybe he was the CEO and Jim Hudson was the president. What moved Jim Hudson out of the way to allow John to be escalated or elevated to president and CEO? Maybe he's first the CEO, but what allowed him to get to president and CEO? That's what I wanted to know. And so possibly the fact that in 1990, the company's revenue was 4%. And they said, maybe they came to Jim and said, Jim, we got to make a change. 16 million could be better. And so when John comes in 91, Access is now about to post 120 million if sales continue at the current pace. And this is in May. This is May the 9th. So we're just 5 months in. And John has already got him. It's probably close to 60 million at this point. And so they're going to post 120 for this year if sales continue at the current pace. As a result of the acquisition, CalComp sales could be boosted by about 80 million for all of 91. So they get a boost. CalComp is a subsidiary of Lockheed Martin. So there is the connection to Lockheed that I was looking for. Access was recently awarded a significant contract to carry Sun Microsystems' line of workstations based on the Unix operating system, but the distributor knew that it would not qualify for a bank loan to help finance the increased workload, Conlin said. Bank loans are difficult to come by today, except for traditional low-risk investments, he said, and banks are touchy about whom they lend to because they're under such heavy regulatory control. Access, Conlin said, has heavy demand for cash flow and a thin profit margin, as do most distributors. They knew they'd have a tough time getting a loan from a bank, he said. This is what John has to continue to deal with as a distributor, because like we talked about before, the profit margins are thin. Why do I talk about that? I talk about that because a source of stress for John. So while you go out and you tout the rich and the lifestyle of the rich and the famous, we're Boulder, Colorado's finest, you got to continue to tell me or prove your value about how you're going to increase our profit margins, because I know that you told us that you're going to make 120, but your profit margins are thin. Your profit margins are pretty thin, right? You got a heavy demand for cash flow to grow, but does this justify me buying you? Is that justified The cash flow that you show up on that's what I'm saying. The manipulation of the balance sheet, the manipulation of the income statement to make it look like we added 80 million. Yeah, but we added 80 million in revenue. Yeah, but how much did you add in expenses? Because we're just going to report the revenue that we added, but we're not going to fact that you have thin profit margins, as do most distributors. So John came in knowing that this was a problem. He took over Access Graphics knowing that distribution was a problem. Razor thin margins, profit margins were a problem. Why is that? Because now we got to pay out expenses. We might not have money. And the bank knows this. The bank is knowing this. That's why they're not going to give y'all money, because they say the profit, we're not going to be able to make no money. You're not going to be able to pay us back. You're not going to have no money to pay us back. Am I part of a sinking ship? Is John running a sinking ship? How long has John been running a company that's a sinking ship? And so guess what you're naturally going to see? You're naturally going to see somebody who starts to try to add other services to increase value, because the value, while good, is not good enough for the market. So somehow, some way, John is an immediate game changer. John takes us. We made 16 million all year. Jim Hudson at president, at the helm. But somehow, some way, once we pull John in to the fold, John immediately more than quadruples our profit, our sales, at least, not our profit, our sales. This means that John's solution, because the profit margins are still thin, but this means that was to ask for more. John's solution was to ask for more growth. He hasn't solved the problem with the profit margin. He just said, give me more and we'll sell more. Yeah, but how are you going to make money? That's what Kevin O'Leary might ask on Shark Tank. How are we going to make money? Because I can't pull no money out of this. Why do I mention this? I mention this because this is going to cause John to have to scramble, because the money is not the money that it should be. You got a business that's successful, but what does it matter if your business sold $1 billion, but you only made 100 million? What's the point of your company selling a billion and you only made 900? This is a better one. 980 million. I sold $1 billion, but I only made, but my expenses, sold $1 billion, but expenses were 980 million. That leaves a profit margin of only 20 million. If my math is correct, minus 980 million. Yeah, that's going to give me 20 million that I got to distribute amongst 120 employees. If I have my cost, so should be okay. Maybe I don't know other expenses or anything. But why would they 980 million? They might be paying 980 million because that's how much the computer. If you're paying full price for the computer, you see what I'm saying? You're essentially paying full price, and you can't mark the computer up much more. If I buy the computer if this computer usually retails for 500, you know what I mean? And I buy the computer for 500, or they say, a discount. We're going to give you a break. We're going to let you buy the computer from us for $495. Well, I don't make on that deal. I only sell it for retail, and I got to be competitive. If I sell it at 500, then I can only make $5 off the deal. How many computers do I hustle to make a good amount of money? Because then the problem is I got to grow, because in order to do that, I have to expand and I have to sell a bunch of computers, but I can't ship all of those computers. So I have to hire a whole company. But what I'm doing is I'm building a business that's hiring a whole bunch of people that hasn't really found out how to expand their profit margin and make money. Because the only way that you would is that you would do economies of scale, in which, say, you would go to Sun Microsystems and say, give me more money, give me more of a profit margin, give me a bigger discount, is what you would say. Why am I mentioning this? I'm mentioning a factor of stress in John's life that is really important. This is important because John needs to be able to keep and uphold appearances. Because if you say I'm the entrepreneur of the year, if you say that I am a millionaire, I came and I bought a 4-story house, I'm wheeling and dealing all over town, I got influence, this and that, then I got to make sure on the other end that the money matches. And the money is not matching. I don't have the profit margin to sustain this. And if I see it, then other financial people are going to come in and see this and they're going to say, y'all not making no money. So if anybody, and so if GE sees it, this is where it's going to come to a head. If GE comes in and sees it, they're going to say, you sold $1 billion, but you only made $20 million. All of you have high expenses. That's not all of a sudden $1 billion was attractive. But all of a sudden it's like, but your expenses are so high, we can't make no money off this deal. You know what I mean? Y'all gonna want all these perks and stuff like that. We can't make no money off this deal. And so now this is why. And I was wondering, like, why would Lockheed Martin be so, for a company drove you to $1 billion in sales, why would Lockheed just want to let all that go? You're telling me in 1990, you made $16 million. This guy took you from 16 million to $1 billion. I got to do the numbers. So if I take 16 and I'm just keep the numbers simple, my new number at crazy minus 16 million divided by 16 million. Let me make sure my interpretation is correct. Okay, that's what I thought. I got 61.5. But you got to multiply that by 100. That's what I thought. Let me put it another way. So 1 billion, just to make sure I'm doing what I'm minus 16 million. No. Divided by 16 million. Yeah, I guess we could do that. 2.5. Boom. Minus 1. 60 minus 1. Minus, you still got to do it by 100. So that's going to give me, that's a growth of 150%. If I'm correct. What's the percentage growth over a 5-year period? On average, just getting the average, because we know, and this is getting concerning, you grew about 28% per year. Divide by 5. No, it's like, if I say divided by 5, 1,230%. If I just divide that by 5, you telling me that your sales are growing by 1,200% per year on average? Some years are better than others. I know we went, from 16 to 120, but it begs the question now. What did John from 16 million and in 1 year, 120 million? If they were a public company, that might draw the eyes of the SEC, because it's like, what are you doing to get, you haven't changed anything. You're not doing anything different. I'm aware of. Jim could have done that. Why did it take John to say, you know what we need to do? We just need to sell more computers. That means that you need a bigger line of credit. That means that you have to go and work with Sun Micro, say, give me a line of credit. Why is this important? It's important because it tells us the risks that John is willing to take. So we can see that John is interacting in a way that is just like, he's walking up and he's saying, hey, if you do this for me, I'm good for it. And so this is how John negotiates. This is how John makes deals. If you give me this much of a line of credit, because Sun Microsystems might be like, yo, we can only allow you to purchase 100 computers and sell and pay us back for that before we sell you anymore. That's going to slow down cash flow, because make sure that those computers get sold. But John is coming and saying, no, we're good for it. We've had a great relationship. Allow more. Give us more computers. Give us more leeway. So that's how John handles business. John B. Ramsey, president and chief executive of Access, said in prepared remarks that such corporate capitalizations are welcomed by small firms. So CalComp, which is already owned 25% stake in the firm, often offered to acquire Access and provide it with funds for expansion. So basically, instead, you don't have to, this took the problem from the bank away. John was concerned about the bank part. The money's running low. This company could go under. But the thing that saved the day was CalComp saying, oh, your numbers look good. You know, we already own 25% stake. You're a promising company. What I'm going to do is we're going to see if we can help you grow. And John is like, well, that's a good deal. If you help me grow, if you can help us grow, it's a good deal. And so John says, you know what? I'll turn it around. We'll make it an even better deal by shooting it up. We'll run it up. 16 million, that ain't nothing. We'll run it to 120. 120, that ain't nothing. We'll run it to 500. 500, that ain't nothing. We'll run it to $1 billion. But somewhere along the line, we got to wonder. And so John is saying, corporate capitalizations are welcomed by small firms looking for alternatives to traditional financing. So this is what John is saying. John is saying, I was looking for somebody to acquire us. This is the conversation that would go on in a meeting. John would say, I'm looking for somebody to acquire us. So that because we know as an MBA, he knows he can't get money. And somebody who's looking over the finances, I know I can't get money from the bank. Why is this important? Because this lets us know that John is more detailed than he was letting on in some of these interviews. John knows that I need this money to get here. And the only way that one of the ways that I can do it is to get it because I can't get it from a bank because I know my margins are thin. So I got to try to figure out what to do. So I'm paying attention to everything. I'm paying attention to the numbers. John is paying attention to everything. So then when somebody says, hey, we'll buy you, and John knows that I got to increase my revenue in order for you to buy me. But then that's where you might start getting into something sticky where Jeff Merrick is like, our numbers look funny because just off alone, you telling me you're growing at 1,200% every year on average. And that's not even true. It's higher because if you telling me that you were at 16, you went from 16 to 120, then you went from 120 to 5 to 1 billion. That rate might be a little bit crazier, but all of that was orchestrated by John. So I'm really concerned with how you got there. And if I'm concerned with how you got there, then I'm concerned how you handled this whole thing with your daughter. If you can make a call to the cops, I'm now concerned with what you were doing to even need. That's why I know that Fox Island was kind of out there. It was kind of crazy. And I need to do some more research on Fox Island. I know it's kind of crazy, but this proves to me that John is able to hide things. He is able to color things in a way. He's able to color things with rose-colored glasses. And if you're able to do that, then that lets me know that you're going to hide something else because it's in your nature to hide things. And that lets me know that there's a lot of things that we're missing because we know just how far John will go to cover things up. It's kind of like Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey was like hiding things in the crib. I think it's like John Wayne Gacy. John was hiding things under the house, in the floorboards. You know, it's like, hey, yo, and we're going. And you remember, John was a political powerhouse. John was hiding people in the floorboards. What? In the face? He had a wife and kids, if I remember correctly. And you was doing hiding people in the floor. Anyways, you see what I'm getting at. This is crazy. But that's the video. Let me know what you think. Am I off? Going too far to the left? What am I doing? This is crazy to me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, take it easy.